Hello and welcome to our second module's topic number 7, air pollution. In our previous topic, we studied about the causes of climate change, the impact of climate change, and the adaptation strategies we could adopt to combat and to survive with this climate change. Today, let's delve a little deeper into the causes of climate change. Like we studied, fossil fuels contributed the most to climate change. The fossil fuels burning, the combustion by vehicles, the combustion by industries, the combustion of fossil fuels in any way, in any form, was causing air pollution. So, in today's topic, we study air pollution in a little more detail with a small case study at the beginning in what happened in Delhi in 2023. Before we begin the sources of air pollution, the effects of air pollution, and the prevention techniques that can be adopted to combat air pollution, let me give you a small case study of what happened in Delhi in 2023. Write it down for you. Delhi 2023 case study. You all must be aware about the air quality index. The air quality index crossed 500 in Delhi, leading it into the severe category. The schools were shut. The ban was made on using odd even vehicles on the same day. A campaign of red light on, gadi off was started by Delhi traffic to combat with air pollution. The major reason was the burning of fossil fuels and stubble burning in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana. The quality of air in Delhi fell so bad that the schools were shut, the institutions went private and online. There was no way that this air pollution could be combated. The adverse effects were so much. People were consuming air that had particulate matter of 2.5 and more, which is very harmful for our lungs. Such particulate matter causes respiratory diseases, which was causing irritation in the eyes and a difficulty in breathing, and people were not able to breathe properly. They were coughing to an extent like they were smoking 100 cigarettes per day. The Ujjwal Yojana was running at a full-fledged speed. What is the Ujjwal Yojana? The Ujjwal Yojana is where LPG vehicles are promoted to reduce air pollution. So this case study of Delhi in 2023 is a glaring example of the rise of air pollution and the effects that air pollution has on human health and economy in general. Imagine a child not being able to go to school for months because of air pollution. Let's now get into what are the sources of air pollution. Like we also studied in climate change. Similarly over here, as we can see, sources of outdoor air pollution, pollution from cars and trucks, pollution blown in from outside. Let's say this box is representing Delhi. Let's say this box represents Delhi. So this pollution blown in from outside region could be what happened in Delhi because of stubble burning, the burning of leftover remnant crops. When you cut a crop, what remains behind and you burn it is called stubble burning. Stubble burning in Punjab and Haryana led to pollution being blown in from outside regions into Delhi. Pollution from residential sources, especially furnaces, your kitchen chimneys, your residential sources, pollution from cars and trucks, pollutions from the downtown, the city area, the industrial area, the pollution from these buildings, pollution from industry, the air pollution of the air traffic, the wind blowing dust and debris from other places. There's a very famous mountain hill sort of place in Delhi where there is a debris, and this is all made up of waste. So the wind that blows from here is of course going to carry pollutants in it. All of these big to smallest of chimney things that are released into the air cause air pollution. So there are two types of air pollutants primarily. One is the primary pollutant, the other is the secondary pollutant. The primary pollutant is something that directly causes air pollution, like the sulfur dioxide SO2 produced from the factories. The factories emit a lot of gases, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, the nitrous gases, the sulfur dioxide. This is sulfur dioxide that is produced, the carbon dioxide also that is produced from, let's say, not from the industries, or let's say the carbon dioxide which is produced from the cars. It's directly entering the atmosphere and polluting the air, so it's a direct pollutant. So primary pollutants are also known as direct pollutants, and secondary pollutants are also known as indirect pollutants. Let's say there's a car, its pollution is directly going into the air, so it's a primary pollutant. The pollutants formed by the intermingling and reaction of the primary pollutants are known as secondary pollutants. The smog, the smoke plus the fog in the air. This is often seen in Punjab during the months of winter, typically ranging from late November to early March. So there's fog in the air because of the less temperature, and when the smoke from these factories or stubble burning or from the cars intermingles with the fog, forms smog, is a secondary pollutant. After the sources of air pollution typically is something very basic. It's something as simple as just turning on your car and not turning it off, and that car emitting a lot of fossil fuel ka combustion air into the environment, to something as big of an industry which is manufacturing, let's say, steel, or manufacturing plastic goods, or manufacturing textiles, and it's releasing a lot of emissions in the air. That's air pollution. What is the impact of air pollution? Like we studied about the case study in Delhi. The conclusion that we drew from the case study of Delhi was public health emergency and a policy breakdown. So there's also a lot of impact among people in general for their health, and it also affects economy. And India, sadly, is a home to 21 most polluted top 50 cities. Out of the top 50 polluted cities of the world, India is home to 21 of those cities. And India has suffered long from poor air quality and is consistently ranked among the world's most polluted countries. We often see the air quality index shows the northern part of India as red. That red is the reason of pollution, the reason of stubble burning, the reason of there being no trees to replenish the environment, the reason of heavy industrialization, the reason of people not using fuel efficient cars, the reason people not using carpooling services. Air pollution causes significant economic damage and threatens public health. So the two major impacts of air pollution, as we studied before, are economic and public health. And this air pollution is now the leading risk factor for death in India, cutting some 2 million lives short every year. We have a right to life under Article 21 of our Constitution. That right to life means the right to live in a healthy environment. We shall be studying about this environmental law and the constitutional aspect of it in our further modules. But right now, looking at this figure, that in India, almost 2 million people lose their life because of air pollution is a threatening sign of how badly we are being impacted by the causes of air pollution. Impact of air pollution. Share of deaths attributable to air pollution exposure in India in 2021. Chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases deaths. 70. So the graph is about how the people have died, share of the percentage share of deaths, and we can see that people who have died because of diabetes in 2021 were 20%. People who died due to lung cancer, which also, apart from just smoking, if you are voluntarily smoking, that's another issue, to be a victim of lung cancer. But it was a report in 2023 that in Delhi, living in Delhi, especially in the NCR region near Gurugram side, that the air is so bad towards the Ghaziabad border of Delhi that it's equivalent to smoking 100 cigarettes per day. So that also causes lung cancer. Neonatal deaths. When the mother is suffering from getting a proper intake of air, the embryo is definitely going to suffer, that is being developed in her womb. There will be deaths at the infancy level and there will be deaths at the prenatal level. Lower respiratory infectious deaths, 39%. Ischemic heart diseases. Ischemic heart diseases are not related much to air pollution, but the arrhythmic heart rates, which somehow lately is being linked to when you're not being able to breathe properly. The air is so heavy that it causes the pressure imbalance in your pulmoartery, leading to ischemic heart diseases, is why this is listed over here as one of the air pollution exposure deaths. Stroke deaths, again, it could be a heat stroke, it could be lack of oxygen stroke, 41%. A stroke is always when your brain is not getting enough oxygen. Chronic obstructive pulmonary death diseases. The primary reason is because you're breathing bad air, and that has resulted in a chronic obstruction in your respiratory system. Look at the percentage, 70%. Although all these deaths are somehow related to air pollution, but something as simple as breathing bad air led to 70% of deaths in India in 2021. The impact of air pollution, apart from a personal loss of health, a personal loss of nation's economy, at an international level, is global warming. Due to the emission of greenhouse gases, there's an imbalance in the gaseous composition of the air. This has led to increase in the temperature of the earth, something that we studied in our topic of climate change, that when the earth is being surrounded by a blanket of greenhouse gases, the sun's heat that comes in is not being able to radiate back. It is trapped around the earth, which leads to increase in temperature of the earth, causing a greenhouse effect, ultimately leading to global warming, which then has resulted in the melting of glaciers. We saw that in a few decades, the Arctic pole might be iceless, which will be increasing the sea levels, which will be leading to submergence of the New York City, the city of Mumbai. The next impact of air pollution is acid rain. We've seen that the bleaching of Taj Mahal, the finest marble that was being used in Taj Mahal, also got bleached because the rain that happened there, because of the tannery industry that was surrounding the Taj Mahal, caused that marble to bleach. The tanneries, let me light it down for you. The burning of fossil fuels again releases harmful gases such as nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and then when these nitrogen dioxide, nitrogen monoxide, sulfur dioxide, they mix in the air and the water droplets combined with these pollutants becomes acidic and fall as acid rain. Now it's obvious that the water cycle that we studied in our first module, nature is not selectively going to absorb only oxygen part of the air. Everything is going to go above, everything is going to condense, everything is going to mix up and fall down, not as normal rain but as acid rain. And that acid rain is going to damage human lives, is going to damage animal lives, is going to damage the plant life. The next impact of air pollution is ozone layer depletion. Yes, I had a trivia question for you back in our first module where I asked, what is the reason of ozone layer depletion? The answer to it was the release of chlorofluorocarbons. Ozone layer depletion. The release of chlorofluorocarbons, the CFCs, halogens, and hydrofluorocarbons, HClFC, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, in the atmosphere is the major cause of depletion of the ozone layer. The depleting ozone layer does not now prevent the ultraviolet rays coming from the sun, and these cause skin diseases like skin cancer and eye problems among individuals. Something as major as loss of vision. So the ozone layer, this is the earth, this is supposed to be something called the ozone layer. Now the sun is the primary source of energy. It will give its radiations and it has UV rays, and these UV rays is something we should not be coming in direct contact with. So nature is so great, it had already put like a sunscreen on the earth, something that we are told to apply today, because that sunscreen is also SPF protection against the UV rays. So the earth was naturally gifted with an ozone layer, its own personal sunscreen, which prevented the ultraviolet rays from the sun to come and affect the earth. But because of the release of such hydrochlorofluorocarbons or chlorofluorocarbons mostly, that ozone layer is being depleted and the UV rays are now coming towards the earth and contacting our skin, causing skin cancer, hitting our eyes, affecting our retinal cells. Interestingly, these chlorofluorocarbons are released by two of our household commonly used appliances. We'll take a guess which these two appliances are. Till then, I'll teach you about effect on animals. We've seen the effect that air pollution has on human health. We've seen the effect of air pollution that is there on a nation's economy. We have seen the impact of air pollution at a global level. We've seen the impact of air pollution on Earth itself. What about animals? those speechless souls who cannot complain, who cannot apply sunscreen, we must think about them as well. Because air pollution has a hard effect on animals. The air pollutants suspended in the water bodies affect the aquatic life. The pollution also compels the animals to leave their habitats and shift to a new place. This renders them stray and has also led to extinction of a large number of animal species. We studied about biodiversity. And how where the diversity is more, the atmospheric stress is less. Now when there's an extinction happening, the environmental stress of that biodiversity is of course going to increase. This is going to not only render those animals stray but affect a whole ecosystem at large, which will then have an impact on us. So if not very selfless, let's be a little selfish for our own selves and do our bit to curb air pollution, to curb all these things, to start from small steps as putting our chimneys on a better filter so that not all pollutants go up in the air. Let's install chimneys at our home. Let's do carpooling. Let's not emit in the garb of being fancy and classy, running your own cars, one person in a car. Let's do public transportation. Let's do carpooling. And industrial areas are also a big contributor of air pollution, and let us be aware citizens. If we see an industry violating certain environmental norms, if we see an industry causing public nuisance, let's be aware citizens and ask the local authorities to take action against such industries. When the sources of air pollution will decrease, the impact that such air pollution has on us will decrease. The prevention techniques. Before we go to prevention techniques, the answer to this was the release of chlorofluorocarbons from two such home appliances. One is the fridge that we use, the refrigerator, and the other is the window AC that we use. So there are different ACs. There's a split AC, there's a window AC, and there's a centrally installed AC. So the windows ACs are also contributing to the release of chlorofluorocarbons, and heavily is the fridge. The old fridges, I'm sure the technologies now are better to combat what was lacking in the previous technology. But yeah, the prevention techniques, like we mentioned, usage of public transport and carpooling, switching off the lights when they're not in use. How difficult are these prevention techniques? They are as simple as just switching off a button when you're not using it. Reusing and recycling products to make ourselves more energy efficient. If we will reuse and recycle, the manufacturing will go down, the consumption of the fuels will go down, the discharge of the pollution will go down. So it's all a beautiful cycle. Avoiding the burning of garbage and smoking. Please have different garbage bins. Don't burn and don't throw away things just like that. Some things can be put back into the ground, the biodegradable waste. Some things should be incinerated. Not just everything must be burned. Let's also avoid activities like cigarette smoking. The air is already polluted enough. Avoid activities and spread awareness of the negative consequences. Awareness is very important. Courses like these are very important. Avoid the use of firecrackers. I mean, this is something which we all were taught when we were little school going people. Say no to crackers, and I'm surprised even till day we are not sensible enough to do this on our own. The Supreme Court has to pass guidelines to not use firecrackers. It should be something very personal that we should be doing on our own. That literacy has to be in us, that sensibility, that ethic has to be there in us, that moral responsibility towards the environment has to be there within us. With this, the topic of air pollution comes to an end. Let's reuse, reduce, recycle, and do our bit to save environment. I'll see you in the next topic. Thank you.